Thank you so much. We're so glad to be here. So, my name is Ludovica Pizzicelli, and I am an assistant director of admissions here at SAIS, and I'm joined by Olivia Lee Daly, who's the coordinator for our Public Service Fellows and Scholars Program, which we'll talk about later. And we are also joined by our student Stavros Piperidis, who is from Greece, Fulbright Fellow, public service fellow, and many more things, which we will mention later. So just briefly about SAIS. SAIS is a graduate school of international relations division of Johns Hopkins. So we only provide post-undergraduate programs. And we have 3 campuses around the world: Bologna, Italy; Washington, D.C., which is where I am based along with Olivia and Stavros; and Nanjing, China. Some programs are only available at certain campuses. Other programs are available at both. You can do exchanges. So there's a lot of different options. We have a lot of different programs, as you can see. In addition to our master's and doctoral degrees, we also have certificates. We do joint degree programs and cooperative degree programs. Those are at our Bologna campus. So there's a lot of different ways that students can attend SAIS or learn from SAIS in general. Our most popular program, and the one that Stavros is in, is our 2-year Master of Arts in International Relations. And students can do their first year of that program in Bologna, Italy, or if they have Mandarin proficiency, in Nanjing, China, or both years in Washington, D.C. So something I just want to mention for those who are just starting their journey of looking for graduate schools of international relations is that we are a member of APSIA. Other schools that are members of APSIA, the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs, are Columbia University in New York, Fletcher School at Tufts in Massachusetts, and Georgetown University, which is our neighbor here in Washington, D.C. Now, the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs, it's a membership-based organization. So there are wonderful schools that are not members of APSIA, whether by choice or because they're missing one of these tenants on the right. But that doesn't mean that they're not a good school. It's just a great place to start when you're trying to find a graduate school. So schools that are part of APSIA, one of the important things is that they have specific career advancement centers within that school of the university. So they're specialized in IR job seeking. They also all have at least one 2-year master's program, and they have graduated at least 3 classes. Some other things that APSIA provides are it's a database of scholarships, job opportunities. They also host a lot of webinars on applying to graduate schools and getting internships. So even if you attend a university that's not part of APSIA, you can still take advantage of their great public resources. And I would really recommend that you take a look at their website. So the employers that hire students, not just from APSIA schools, but from a variety of different schools of international relations in the U.S., our students typically go into 3 main fields: private sector international relations work, like consulting at somewhere like Deloitte, international business like S&P Global, multilaterals like the IMF, nonprofits, or government, whether in their home country or work with U.S. government here in the United States. Now I'm going to go into a little bit about preparing to apply and what schools in international affairs look for in the U.S. Now, every school is going to be different and is going to look at different things, but this is a general guide that you can take into account when you're beginning this process. So there are 4 main things that admissions committees look for when you're applying to graduate school. The first one is a clear sense of professional direction. So that means what have you been doing this far in your career or in your studies? Do you have professional goals that line up with the program that you're applying for? What is your chance of success in the program? So are you able to manage your time well? Do you have a track record of showing that you're involved in different things? You're balancing internships, you're balancing full-time coursework. They also are looking for experiences and perspectives that help others succeed. So we want our classrooms to be full of students from a wide variety of backgrounds so that they're not just learning from the professors, but they're learning from each other. So for example, in our classes, we may have lieutenant colonels in the U.S. military, diplomats from different countries, doctors, business people with many years of experience, students from all over the world. That's something that admissions committees do look into when you're applying. And finally, aptitude for study. So something that we say at SAIS is that, we have a rigorous program. All of our programs are a lot of work, and Stavros can talk about his experience as well later. There's a lot of reading, and we want to make sure that we admits people that are going to be able to succeed academically as well. So we want to see that you have done well academically previously. If you didn't do very well in one program, maybe you have another master's or you did very well on the GRE exam or something like that. We just want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. So there are two main schools of thought in admissions, and many universities will employ a little bit of both. So there's the more formulaic approach where the university is going to look at your GPA, class rank, test scores, such as GRE or GMAT, or language scores. Now, a university that's more formulaic, they may have GPA minimums, test score minimums, and the like. Now, a holistic review, which is what SAIS tends to employ, is they don't just look at your scores or your GPA, but they also take into account the strength of your writing sample, your resume, your letters of recommendation, an interview if that's an option as well. So they want to take a look at the whole applicant. They want to get a clear picture of who you are, what you're trying to get out of the program, and assess you according to that. So regardless of what kind of program you're applying to, I'm going to share some tips for a successful application that should help you as you begin this journey of applying to graduate schools. So a big thing for admissions committees in the U.S. is demonstrated interest. Now, what does that mean? It means that you've put thought into why you're applying for that university and you're really committed to attending if you're admitted. So that looks like a few different things. First of all, we want to see that you're prepared. You're not just applying on a whim, last minute, you're prepared early. You've already taken all your necessary exams. For us, we require IELTS or TOEFL for non-native English speakers, with some exceptions. We don't require GRE or GMAT, but some schools do. You've already gathered supporting documents. We're not emailing you after the deadline saying we still don't have your transcripts. Some schools have early application deadlines, which can be helpful for international students because you'll be able to plan earlier, which is important. And you've already applied for those external scholarships, or you're following that timeline as well. You're also attending graduate fairs and events such as this one. Some universities may track how many events you attend that they put on. So they might track how many information sessions you go to, how often you meet with an admissions representative or a current student. Those are all things that are important to show that you care about the university and about your decision. You also need to prepare any prerequisite coursework. So some schools may require that you have economics classes to apply, or you have to have them in order to attend if you are admitted. So you're already on top of that, and you've already identified weaknesses in your application and addressed them accordingly. Now, a big part of the graduate application, and that vast majority of IR schools require, is what is called a personal essay. It might be called a personal statement, a regular essay. There might be a lot of different names for it. But what this comes down to is it's your calling card. It is what the admissions committee is going to look at to get a clear picture of who you are. So you want to do three main things: outline your qualifications, convey your passion, and explain your goals. So your qualifications are not just work related. We get so many students that apply straight out of undergrad, and that's completely fine. But we want to see, what work did you do in undergrad? What volunteering experiences you had? What about general life experiences? If you've taken relevant coursework, like you majored in international relations or you took courses in international relations, any projects you worked on, maybe for a professor, and any languages that you speak. If you're on this call, you likely speak at least 2 languages. So that already puts you at a great advantage. And we do want to know about all the languages that you speak and that make you stand out as an applicant. You also want to convey your passion. So we want to see that you're really excited to go to grad school in the US for IR. So what do you want to study in particular? Do you want to study tech and international affairs? Do you want to study diplomacy? Maybe you're really specifically interested in Europe and Eurasia issues. Tell us about that. Why does it excite you? Did you take a class in it? Is it something that you volunteered with? Something like that. What motivates you? Why are you pursuing this degree? Is it because you want to work in that field or something like that? And that goes to explaining your goals. So something that we can tell as an admissions committee is when a student puts an essay through ChatGPT and whatever it puts out is what they submit. We can also tell when you write the same exact essay for every single school and just change the name, which, by the way, some people forget to change the name. So then we get applications for George Washington University instead of SAIS. So don't make those mistakes. And a way that you can make sure you don't make that mistake is that you write an essay for each school you're applying to. You can use the same main portion, like your qualifications and your passion. That part may stay the same, but then specifically call out why you want to go to that school. Maybe there's a course that you want to do, or a professor you want to learn under, or there's an extracurricular you want to do at that particular school. Write about that. Write about the particular program. Do you like that it's 2 years long and you have to choose a regional and a functional focus area? And what are you planning to do with your degree? We want to make sure that you're not just going to grad school because you think it's the right move at this age. We want to make sure that you have a clear professional goal in mind. And now, avoid common mistakes. So failing to follow instructions, thinking that you're exempt from the TOEFL or the IELTS exam when you're not. That's not very helpful. Sometimes we have students not submit enough letters of recommendation. And some schools are really nice, and like we tend to reach out and say, hey, we noticed that you applied for this scholarship and you didn't upload the essay. Would you like to do that? Or your recommender still hasn't submitted their letter. You might want to reach out to them. But schools don't have to do that. So it's your responsibility to stay on top of it. Keep checking your application portal. That should be updated regularly. If you see anything looks wrong, reach out. Also, don't submit more information if the instructions say that the essay should be 500 words. Please don't submit 10 pages. We will not read all 10 pages. And it will make you look like you don't follow directions, and that's not good either. Don't make common grammar and spelling errors. Have someone review your application who can make sure that your application doesn't contain spelling mistakes or, for example, isn't addressed to George Washington University. And finally, don't be dishonest. So if there's a question asking if you've ever been on academic probation, make sure to answer that straightforwardly, answer it truthfully, but don't dwell on it. We don't need an entire page of why you were on academic probation, and that's not really necessary. Just explain that you've learned from that and now you're in a better place and you will succeed in graduate school. And then quickly, I'm going to talk about some financial resources that are available. So there's something called institutional aid. That's the aid from the university. Many universities will supply at least some aid, but it's really rare that you're going to get a full ride or full tuition discount when applying to graduate school. So keep that in mind. You might want to apply to a range of universities, one where it's more likely that you get a full ride tuition and ones that are more of a reach, and then look into these other options. So employer benefits. If you're working full time, your employer may say, okay, we'll contribute some money to your education. We see this often with ministries of foreign affairs in a country. If they might pay for their junior diplomats to get a master's. Private funding organizations, some of these are posted on APSIA, some of these are posted on university websites. Fulbright counts as that as well. There's also, you can make some extra money while you're already in the US with student employment. So under F1 visas and J1 visas, you're allowed, there's a limited amount of work you can do on campus at a university. And this can be a way for you to supplement the money that you're receiving from other sources. And finally, personal resources. Start saving up, start looking into how much apartments cost in your proposed city, and go from there. And now I'm going to introduce Olivia, who's going to talk a little bit about the Public Service Scholarship, which is an excellent way to fund your education. And other schools may have similar things like that. And then she'll also introduce Stavros. So Olivia, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Ludovica. Great information. And so, as Ludovica briefly touched on, we understand financial aid and financial need is a large part of individuals' concerns when applying to graduate school. So that's what I'm here to talk about. I am the Public Service Fellows and Coordinator, Program Coordinator for SAIS. And so I'm going to give you a brief introduction of this specific scholarship that we offer. SAIS offers a lot of institutional aid that Ludovica covered on. But the Public Service Scholarship, Fellows and Scholarship, is the biggest institutional scholarship that we provide as a school. And so the goal of this scholarship is to develop, for our students to develop a more skilled and strategic set that they can bring when tackling public policy challenges while they're at SAIS. And so what this scholarship program entails is our fellows are highly talented individuals from all countries, the U.S. and globally, that are pursuing a Master's of International Relations degree, who offer an interest in public service, as well as scholars who are more mid-career professionals, also from all countries, with at least 7 years of full-time work experience. This can include public service, and they are pursuing a Master's of International Public Policy, either full-time or part-time for 2 years. So it has to be under those two that we offer. And then I'm going to give you a brief overview of program benefits. So our fellows receive 100% tuition scholarship for the MAIR in year one, and it's renewed for your second year if you maintain a full-time status and a cumulative GPA of a 3.4 or higher. Again, that's a 100% tuition scholarship. That's for the MAIR program. For the MIPP, with 7 years of full-time work experience for mid-career professionals, these scholars receive 50% tuition scholarship for their full-time or part-time 2 years. About the program, fellows and scholars are invited to events that we hold featuring policy leaders and practitioners of public service here in DC. These are some of the things that I curate as the program coordinator. And so it looks a little different every year, but in 2 weeks, we have a think tank panel with some of our SAIS alumni coming to speak to our cohort. We have a World Bank trip planned in 2 weeks that our students are able to go physically be at the World Bank and hear from a panel of different international workers and domestic workers currently at the World Bank. So we have a lot of exciting programming specifically for our students. They also receive guidance from our Office of Global Careers with opportunities available when you're seeking those public service careers, whether it be full-time jobs or internships for the summer. A little bit more about applying to the program. Currently, we have 75 total students in our program. Stavros is one of them. And it is currently split almost in half with MAIR and MIPP students. It is also, we keep our numbers very split. So we also have basically a 50% domestic U.S. citizens in the program, but then also 50% international students. We also have split male and female ratio split pretty evenly, but international students, obviously, this is a huge scholarship that is able to fund your tuition. I also want to add DC can be quite an expensive place, so that is something I like to include. We cover your tuition, but not living expenses in DC. But again, this is the highest scholarship you can receive from SAIS, and so it's a lot of money that we cover. There's no program requirements besides maintaining your full-time student status with your 3.4 GPA. We ask that you participate in some of the events, but when you're applying to SAIS, all that requires to be considered for the scholarship program is a 300-word essay on your application. And obviously you have to have an interest in public service work. Um, I am then going to wrap this up and throw it to our current student in the PSFS program and MAIR program, Stavros. So I'll let you say a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's a great time to participate today and share some of my experience of applying to a U.S. university, the process, and perhaps a little about how it is to be here. So initially, I really, really highly want to um, suggest some and stress some of the important things that were mentioned previously and things that I also did during my application process, because it's different to hear it from an admissions team and it's different to hear it from a student that went through the process and actually made it. Um, so many good tips. The tip that I follow the most is being genuine, being showing your interest in many different ways by attending info sessions and engaging with the admissions team, and also by applying early. So I started researching about U.S. universities around the summer before the deadline of applications. So it was probably 6 months in advance. And I really was aiming for an early decision. So I applied by October. There are some different windows for each university, but I think that shows your interest in the program and how committed you are to actually making it through. And it also takes a lot of effort, not just to apply for a US university, but also finding the ways that these studies could be funded. Because as a student from Greece, as you can tell, and perhaps from Turkey and Kosovo, I think it's a very different economic, let's say, environment here. So we need funding, and that's basically the primary driving force of everything. So while I was also preparing my materials, I was also looking at funding sources. And part of the reason I applied to SAIS was this public service scholarship that had the potential to cover 100% of tuition, but I didn't know if I got it until around March. Um, so that also meant that I had to apply for Fulbright in advance without knowing if I got the full tuition scholarship, just in case I made it past. So I made it past that scholarship, the SAIS scholarship. I had my interview a week after I got the news from SAIS with Fulbright. And then the decision for Fulbright was about 2, 3 weeks after that. So you really need to invest your time into figuring out which organizations are gonna support you in this endeavor, because it's not just a university. Fulbright for me covers my living expenses here, which is like a big chunk of the expenses that I have. So if I shift to my experience here, since this is a international relations webinar, I will say that it's an amazing time to be in the United States. These past 2 years, I had the opportunity to understand the U.S. administration from the Democratic side, but now with the change in administration, I'm also adapting to the Republican understanding and the new challenges that arise. And especially being in DC is even more critical. But I would say that wherever you go in the United States, some of these policy changes will affect you. So it's an exciting time to be a practitioner, a student in this space, and particularly being taught about faculty that have gone through this process of working for a government, working for a think tank, working for an international organization, and also engaging with alumni from the school. I think that's also a big part of the added value of studying in a US university, because the network is so large and they're willing to support you. I think try to keep it short, but I'm happy to answer questions about the scholarship, about my experience, about the process. But yeah, many thoughts and ideas for that.
Thank you, Stavros. I think we need to turn it over to the other universities. So I will do that. But you can also reach out to us at sais.admissions@jhu.edu.